I remember the day my life changed forever. My name is Ellie, a 22-year-old mathematics major at Stanford University. I'm the quintessential California girl, tall, fit, and undeniably blonde. My hair cascades down my back in loose, golden waves, my skin kissed by the sun. My physique is something I've worked on diligently. At 5'7", I'm lean but sculpted, a testament to hours spent in the gym and on the volleyball court. My breasts are a perky B-cup, often accentuated by the cute, lacy bras I love to wear. Today, I've chosen a light blue one, matching the color of the sky on a perfect day. My feet, size 8, are adorned with a fresh coat of pastel pink nail polish, matching my playful summer mood. I grew up in Santa Monica, but moved to Palo Alto for college. My mom remarried when I was in high school, and that's when my stepfather, Adam, entered my life. He was always kind, supportive, but something about him was different. There was an intensity in his eyes when he looked at me, which I only began to understand years later. It was a typical Saturday morning when the house was quiet. Mom had gone for her weekly yoga retreat, leaving me and Adam alone. I was in my room, studying for an upcoming calculus exam, wearing just my shorts and that light blue bra. My door was slightly ajar when I heard footsteps. It was Adam coming to check on me. "Hey, Ellie, how's the studying going?" he asked, his voice a comforting rumble. I turned around, my hair sweeping over my shoulder, and saw his eyes momentarily flicker down to my chest before meeting mine. "It's going okay, I guess. Calculus can be a beast," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "You're doing great, Ellie. You've always been so smart," he said, moving closer. There was an unspoken tension in the air, something I couldn't ignore. "Thanks, Adam," I smiled, but then I noticed how he lingered, his gaze now openly admiring. "Is there something else?" He hesitated, then shook his head. "No, just keep up the good work." As he left, I felt a strange mix of flattery and discomfort. Was it wrong to feel this way about my stepfather? Weeks passed and our interactions grew more charged. One evening, while we were alone watching a movie, I decided to test the waters. I wore a simple white tank top, no bra, and a pair of tiny pink shorts. My heart was pounding as I sat next to him, closer than usual. "Ellie, you've grown into such a beautiful woman," he whispered during a quiet scene, his hand brushing against mine. I didn't pull away. Instead, I looked at him, my blue eyes wide with mixed emotions. "Do you really think so?" "Yes. And it's hard not to notice," he confessed, his voice low. "But Adam, we shouldn't—" I started, feeling the weight of this moment. "I know, Ellie. But sometimes the heart doesn't listen to what's right or wrong," he said, his eyes locked on mine. The conversation paused, the air thick with unspoken desires. I knew we were crossing a line, yet the thrill was intoxicating. One rainy afternoon, Mom was out of town for a conference. The sky was as gray as my thoughts. I was in my room, reading when Adam knocked. I invited him in, and this time there was no pretense. He sat next to me, his thigh touching mine. "Ellie, we need to talk about us," he started, his voice shaking slightly. "Us?" I echoed, my heart racing. "Yes, us. I know it's wrong, but I feel something for you that I shouldn't," he admitted, his eyes searching mine for any sign of rejection or acceptance. I bit my lip, feeling the weight of this moment. I feel it too, Adam. But we can't. Can we?" He leaned closer, his breath warm against my cheek. "Maybe we can, if we're careful. If we keep it just between us." "But what if Mom finds out?" I asked, my voice trembling. "We'll be discreet. We'll protect each other," he assured me, his hand gently squeezing mine. The conversation was leading us down a path of no return. I nodded, my mind battling between my morals and my desires. From that day, our relationship evolved into something secretive yet thrilling. We set boundaries, but with each meeting, those boundaries blurred. I found myself dressing more provocatively around him, enjoying the way his eyes followed me. One evening, as we sat in the living room, the tension was palpable. I was in my favorite silk nightgown, which hugged my body in all the right places. "You're playing with fire, Ellie," he murmured, his hand resting on my knee. "Maybe I like the heat," I whispered back, feeling bold, empowered by my own desirability. "But we must be careful," he said, his voice serious. "This isn't just about us. It's about everyone around us." "I know, Adam, but being near you, it's like I can't help myself," I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. He looked at me, his gaze intense. "I feel the same, Ellie, but we need to think about the consequences." "Consequences or not, I can't deny what I feel," I said, moving closer to him. He sighed, a mix of reluctance and longing in his eyes. "You're making this hard, Ellie." "Good," I smiled, a little teasingly. "Maybe it's supposed to be hard." Our conversations became our secret pleasure, filled with innuendos and whispered promises. We talked about everything and nothing, each word we spoke weaving us closer together in our forbidden dance. But we knew this was our Pandora's box, and once opened, there was no closing it again. As the days turned into weeks, our secret meetings became a routine, each one pushing the boundaries a little further. We were like two magnets, inexorably drawn to each other, despite the moral compass spinning wildly in our minds. Each conversation was laced with the thrill of danger, the excitement of the unknown, and the warmth of mutual desire. But with each step we took, we knew the fall could be just as great as the heights we were exploring. As autumn began to paint the campus with shades of gold and red, I found myself more entangled with Adam than ever. The chill in the air was a stark contrast to the heat between us. One evening, after a particularly tough day of lectures, I returned home to find Adam in the kitchen, preparing dinner. The smell of roasted vegetables and herbs filled the house, comforting yet seductive in its own way. He was wearing a simple white shirt, sleeves rolled up, revealing his arms, which had always drawn my gaze. "Rough day?" he asked, his voice a soothing balm to my frayed nerves. "You could say that," I sighed, setting my backpack down with a thud. I was still in my university attire, a fitted sweater that accentuated my form and jeans that hugged my legs. Underneath, I wore a delicate lace bra, the same light blue one from earlier, now a silent secret between us. He turned, handing me a glass of wine. "Here, this might help." "Thanks, Adam," I said, taking the glass. Our fingers brushed, sending a familiar jolt through me. We sat at the dinner table, the food a perfect distraction, but our eyes kept meeting, speaking volumes without words. "Ellie, how's the new professor for your advanced algebra class?" Adam asked, trying to steer the conversation to safer waters. "Brilliant, but intense. I think I'll need extra study sessions to keep up," I replied, a playful glint in my eye. "Maybe you could help?" He chuckled. "You know I'm no mathematician, but I'd love to help you study. In any way I can." The innuendo hung in the air, thick like the aroma of our meal. I laughed, feeling a rush of warmth. "You could definitely help me relax after studying." "Relaxation is important," he agreed, his tone dropping to a more intimate level. "We should make sure you're not too stressed." After dinner, we moved to the living room. The fire was crackling, casting a warm glow over us. Adam sat closer to me than usual, our knees almost touching. "Tell me, Ellie, what do you think about when you're solving those complex equations?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. "I think about patterns, how everything fits together, how one small change can alter the whole outcome," I said, my voice soft. Like life, he mused. One small change, and everything can shift. I nodded. Exactly. It's like us, isn't it? He looked at me, his expression serious. Yes, it is. And we're playing with those variables every time we're alone like this. But it feels right, doesn't it? I whispered, my heart racing. It feels more than right, he admitted, his hand finding mine, our fingers intertwining. But we must be careful. Not just for us, but for everyone. I know, I said, squeezing his hand. But when I'm with you, it's like I'm solving the most beautiful equation, one where every variable leads to you. He moved closer, his breath mingling with mine. And you're the variable that makes everything make sense for me. The conversation flowed into the night, each word, each look adding layers to our complex dance. We talked about books we loved, movies that made us think, music that stirred our souls. Each topic was a thread, weaving us closer, our laughs, our sighs, our silences all building into a crescendo of mutual understanding and forbidden affection. As the fire died down to embers, Adam whispered, I should go before this night turns into something we can't take back. But what if I want it to? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, my eyes locked on his. He paused, the struggle evident in his eyes. Ellie, you don't know how much I want that too. But we have to think about the morning after. There's always a morning after, I said, moving even closer. But tonight, let's just be us. He looked at me, the conflict clear. But then he leaned in, our lips meeting in a kiss that was both an answer and a question, sealing our fate for the night, if not for the future. The kiss was electric, a rush of warmth spreading through me like wildfire. When we pulled apart, the room felt different, charged with a new kind of energy that neither of us could ignore. Ellie, Adam breathed out, his voice laced with both desire and caution. We need to talk about this. I know, I replied, my heart still pounding from the kiss. But talking isn't what I want right now. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I'd come to recognize as his way of wrestling with his conscience. We can't let this go too far. We have to think about the consequences. I nodded, understanding but feeling the pull of my own desires. I agree, but Adam, sometimes, the heart doesn't just follow logic. It follows feeling. He looked at me, his eyes reflecting the dying light of the fire, now just embers. You're right, Ellie. And my heart, it's with you. Let's just enjoy this moment then, I suggested, feeling bold. We can deal with tomorrow when it comes. He hesitated for a moment before nodding. Just this moment. We sat back, the silence between us now filled with a new understanding. I leaned my head against his shoulder, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. Tell me something you've never told anyone, I whispered, seeking to deepen our connection. He thought for a moment, then spoke. When I was younger, I wanted to be an architect. I loved the idea of building something that would last, something beautiful. But life took me on a different path. I can see that, I said, imagining him designing structures as intricate as the equations I loved. Maybe you should sketch something for me one day. Maybe I will, he smiled, his hand gently stroking my hair. What about you, Ellie? What's your secret dream? I want to teach math, I confessed. Not just the numbers, but the beauty in them. I want to show people how mathematics can be poetry. That's beautiful, he said, his voice full of admiration. You'll be an amazing teacher. We talked about our dreams, fears, and the little things that made us who we were. Each revelation was like adding another piece to the puzzle of our lives, fitting perfectly into the grand design of our connection. As the night deepened, Adam stood up to stoke the fire, his silhouette framed by the orange glow. "It's getting late," he remarked, turning back to me. "I don't want this night to end," I admitted, standing up to join him by the fireplace. He turned to face me, his expression soft. "Neither do I. But every night has its dawn." "Can't we pretend for just a little longer?" I asked, stepping closer until our bodies were nearly touching. He sighed, wrapping his arms around me in a gentle embrace. "We can pretend," he murmured into my hair. "But we must remember, it's just pretending." I nodded against his chest, feeling the warmth of his body seep into mine. "Just for tonight," I agreed, closing my eyes to savor the moment. We returned to the couch, wrapped in each other's arms, talking until our voices were hoarse and our eyelids heavy. We spoke of nothing and everything, of the stars outside, of books we'd read, of the music we loved. Each word was a thread, binding us closer in this delicate, forbidden tapestry. When the first light of dawn began to creep through the curtains, we knew our time was up. Adam kissed my forehead, a tender, farewell gesture. "I'll see you at breakfast," he said, his voice a mix of sadness and affection. "I'll be there," I promised, watching him leave, the warmth of his touch lingering on my skin. As I lay back on the couch, alone with the morning light, I pondered our complex equation. We were variables in each other's lives, changing the outcomes with every touch, every word. But like any good math problem, the solution was not clear, and the path we were on was fraught with both beauty and peril. The morning light was gentle, almost apologetic for intruding on our night of confessions and whispers. I lay there for a moment longer, wrapped in the memory of Adam's warmth before I got up to face the day. I dressed in something simple but elegant, a soft cream sweater and denim, feeling both the comfort and the weight of our shared secret. As I walked into the kitchen, the smell of coffee greeted me, a familiar comfort that now felt tinged with our new intimacy. Adam was already there, looking both thoughtful and slightly troubled as he poured coffee into mugs. "Good morning," he said, his voice a careful balance of normalcy. "Morning," I replied, trying to match his tone but feeling the undercurrent of last night's closeness. He handed me a mug, our fingers brushing again, sending a familiar thrill through me. "Sleep well?" he asked, his eyes searching mine for any sign of regret. "Better than I have in a while," I admitted truthfully, taking a sip of the coffee, which was just how I liked it. We sat at the breakfast table, the silence between us now different, layered with unsaid words and the memory of our kiss. "I was thinking," Adam began, breaking the silence. "Maybe we should set some clearer boundaries." I nodded, knowing he was right but feeling a pang of loss at the thought. "I agree. But how do we define those boundaries when what we feel doesn't want to be contained?" He sighed, looking down at his coffee. "We define them because we must. Because what we feel could hurt others, including us." "But last night," I started, but Adam gently interrupted. "Last night was beautiful, but it can't be our reality, Ellie. We need to find a way to coexist in a way that doesn't lead us down a path we can't return from." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his words. "Okay, so what do we do? How do we go back to normal when normal feels so far away now?" "We don't go back," he said, his voice firm yet gentle. "We move forward, but with caution. No more late nights alone. No more moments like last night." I nodded, the idea of not having those moments hurting more than I wanted to admit. "And what about us? What are we?" "We're family," Adam said, his tone resolute. "We care for each other in a way that respects the boundaries of that relationship." The conversation was sobering, like cold water on the warm glow of last night. We talked about practicalities, about how we would behave around Mom, how we would keep our distance without making it obvious. Each word was like setting a stone in place, building a wall between us that was necessary but painful. "I'll miss us," I said quietly, looking at him over my coffee mug. "I'll miss this version of us too," he confessed, his eyes reflecting a sadness that mirrored my own. "But we'll find a new way to be together, just not like this." We spent the rest of the breakfast in lighter conversation, talking about mundane things like the weather, my classes, his work. It was an attempt to normalize our interaction, but beneath it all was the unspoken acknowledgement of our night together. As breakfast concluded, Adam stood up, clearing the dishes. "I'll be out for a bit today, some errands to run," he said, signaling a physical and emotional retreat. "Okay," I replied, standing to help with the dishes, our hands brushing as we worked side by side. "Take care, Adam." "You too, Ellie," he said, his voice soft as he left the kitchen, leaving me with the echo of our new reality. I spent the day lost in my studies, the equations on the page a stark contrast to the complex human equations of my life. As the sun set, casting long shadows through the windows, I realized that while our relationship had changed, the bond between us was still there, just redefined. We had to find balance, like solving for an unknown in a mathematical problem, where every step could either bring us closer to the solution or further away. As the evening turned to night, I sat at my desk, books scattered around, but my mind was elsewhere. I couldn't shake the feeling of loss from our morning conversation, the new boundaries feeling like walls around my heart. I knew they were necessary, but they didn't make it any easier. The house was quiet, Mom still away, the only sound being the occasional creak of old wood settling. I had just decided to turn in when I heard the softest of footsteps outside my door. My heart skipped, knowing it could only be one person. I didn't move, barely breathing as the door opened slowly, silently. Adam stood there, his silhouette framed by the hallway light, a look of conflict written all over his face. He stepped inside, closing the door so quietly it was almost like it wasn't there. "Adam?" I whispered, my voice a mix of surprise and longing. He didn't speak at first, just moved closer, his eyes never leaving mine. He sat on the edge of my bed, his presence a palpable force in the small room. "I couldn't sleep," he said in a hushed tone, his voice thick with emotion. "I needed to see you, just to make sure we're okay." I sat up, pulling my blanket closer, feeling the chill of the night, or perhaps the chill of our new reality. "We're okay, Adam, but it's hard." He nodded, looking down at his hands. "I know. I keep thinking about last night, about how easy it felt to be close to you." "It was easy," I agreed, my voice catching in my throat. "Too easy, maybe." He looked up, his eyes searching mine. "I set those boundaries for us, but seeing you now, I realize how hard they are to maintain." "Boundaries are meant to protect, right?" I asked, feeling the weight of every word. "Yes, but what if they're also keeping us from something real? Something we can't ignore?" His voice was a whisper, filled with the pain of contradiction. I moved closer to him, the space between us charged with all that was unsaid. "Then we have to be stronger than our feelings, don't we?" He reached out, his hand hovering near mine before he gently took it. "I want to be strong, Ellie, but when I'm with you, all I feel is weak." The honesty in his words broke something inside me, and I found myself leaning into him, our foreheads touching, sharing breath in the quiet night. Maybe it's not about being weak or strong. Maybe it's about being honest with ourselves. "And what does that honesty tell you?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "That I care about you more than I should in ways I shouldn't," I admitted, my heart racing. "And I feel the same," he said, his thumb tracing circles on my hand. "But we have to find a way to live with this, to be near each other without crossing lines we can't uncross." I nodded, pulling back slightly to look into his eyes. "We can do this. We can care for each other, love each other, but differently." He sighed, a sound of reluctant agreement. "Differently, yes. But Ellie, this visit, it was selfish of me. I shouldn't have come." "I'm glad you did," I said, squeezing his hand. "It's good to know we're not alone in this." He stood up, the moment of closeness already fading into the night. "I should go. We both need rest." I watched him move towards the door, his steps slow, reluctant. "Good night, Adam," I whispered, feeling the distance grow even as he was just steps away. "Good night, Ellie," he replied, his hand pausing on the doorknob before he turned it, leaving as quietly as he had come. As the door clicked shut, I lay back down, staring at the ceiling, the echo of his presence still in the room. We had to navigate this new chapter with care, like tightrope walkers over a chasm of desire and duty. But knowing we were both struggling made the path, though difficult, a little less lonely.